We are back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek, and we're currently focused on Star Trek: The Next Generation. And today's episode is the host, Dr. Beverly. Where did I put my wine?
Here's mine.
Oh, here's my wine. Okay, so we automatically got blocked or something. A flag went up on YouTube's AI because I said wine. I apologize, YouTube AI. I'm drinking Jesus juice. It's not wine, it's Jesus juice.
You can't say wine on YouTube?
No, I think because like my podcast is we're drinking Jesus juice. Is that what Michael Jackson used to call it?
Yeah.
Jesus juice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to introduce you guys.
Was it wine or was it beer that he would give the kids?
I think it was wine. I don't know. We don't know that Michael Jackson gave wine to children. That's an allegation. But
peach schnapps, no?
Some
fizzy?
No. Wine coolers.
Wine coolers.
Okay, so there's a debate that we've been having on the show about this because is it really a bad thing? Because in France, kids drink like a lessened version of alcohol. Like schnapps would be a slightly lessened version of alcohol, right?
They mix it with water.
And then those of us who grew up Catholic, isn't it real wine? Like I've had real wine since I was a little kid in the little sacrament, right? Or
what do you mean they get schnapps instead of wine and beer?
I think they get wine,
get wine for mass.
But like, do you think Michael Jackson was giving these kids more than just like a little tiny bit of wine? Anyways, we're talking about Star Trek.
I think it was wine coolers.
I think it was like wine.
How did we go right into Michael Jackson? We have to get back on track. So, okay.
There was crushed roofies inside the
Oh my gosh. You gotta speak louder because no one heard your joke. See the waveform over here, guys? Here, I'm gonna make it. Ooh, whoa.
Oh my gosh.
That was terrible. I'm gonna make this is an unofficial.
At what level do I need to speak?
Like enough to match mine. See that there?
So I would have to speak like this.
Yes, exactly. All right, and okay, so audience, I'd like to introduce you to some of my closest friends. This is Roxanne, Rox.
Howdy.
And this is Eddie. You guys are allowed to have. I'm Starfleet Boy, but also everyone knows I'm So Hale, but I'm also Starfleet Boy. So You guys are allowed to have.
I can be Z-Man.
A hand. Yeah, you can be Z-Man. So we can refer to you as Z-Man from now on if you want to. And do you want to have like a code name? It's good if it's Star Trek related. But you don't really know this Star Trek, right?
No.
You know the original series, like with Captain Kirk?
Yes.
Okay, so...
So I guess somebody from that series. Who?
I don't know. I just watched the first episode of any version of Star Trek that I've ever seen.
Well, I can't be Barbarella or something.
That was your first episode of Star Trek ever?
I've never seen any.
Oh,
Can I be Barbarella?
Barbarella and Z-Man. It's
I want to be Barbarella. I know it's not Star Trek, but she's kind of spacey.
I like it. I like Barbarella, Z-Man, and Starfleet Boy. So that's our thing today. And look, I happen to have a little reference to Doctor Who. I didn't even realize I was wearing this shirt.
I love Doctor Who.
Do you really love Doctor Who?
I love the music.
That's good. Oh, the music's great.
I love it.
That's what's his name?
We talk about it all the time. I remember you put it on Eddie's iPod for me.
Hey Siri, who's the composer of Doctor Who?
Murray Gold composed the song Doctor Who.
Can we listen to it?
Thank you, Siri.
Oh, no, we can't.
Yeah, we could put a little song on here.
We're not going to get a strike?
Hey, Siri, play Madame de Pompadour.
I couldn't find Madame de Pompadour on Apple Music or in your library.
Oh, weird. Hey, Siri, play random Doctor Who songs.
This is mine.
Okay, playing Ballad of the Three Doctors medley, Doctor Who, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future by Random Encounter.
This is like the most random.
That's not it, is it?
No.
No, I like the spacey one.
Hey Siri, set volume to
20%.
That's a rock one.
Yeah.
Hey Siri, set the volume to 20%. Oh, there we go. All right. Siri doesn't always listen.
I love it. I love
Hey
it.
Siri, play Star Trek: The Next Generation theme.
Now playing Star Trek: The Next Generation theme by SFO.
LFO.
Electric Light Orchestra doing
Yes,
Star Trek would be
yeah.
amazing. All right, I don't know if our audience can hear you, so I'm gonna raise the gain a little, just a little bit here. Let's see how this
The
works.
gain makes it wider.
It will make further away sounds
Louder.
but then you also hear a lot of noise, so you have to balance it nicely.
Okay.
It's just like ISO, and it's really not like ISO, but that's a good. I think that's fair. Parallel, yeah, it's neat. All right, Roxanne, sorry to bore you. So we're here to talk about. How many minutes are we into this? Like 8 minutes already? Okay, we're here to talk about Star Trek: The Next Generation's episode, The Host, which we just watched. We like fresh out of
That's right.
watching it.
Mm.
Hey Siri, stop. Hey, thank you. Okay, sorry, Siri wasn't playing the right version of it. Whatever. He does that. But you
So
guys
fussy.
now see, like that's actually Star Trek technology, by the way.
I love it. I want it. I need it.
Like, did you notice in this episode how they just go up to this thing and they say, "Oh, I'd like lemon tea," and it just appears?
Mhm.
Yes. I know.
So that's like 3D printing, but like on a whole more elegant level.
I
So
love
what does
it.
it mean
I
that they
need
don't that it does not recognize the drink that he suggested that he requested?
So yeah, in the episode, that's a great. We talked about this a little bit, but during the episode, Nadan, we haven't even talked about what this episode's about yet, but Nadan, in the body of Commander Riker, goes up to the holodeck in a parallel scene. So they just show Dr. Beverly getting her drink, and then it's really kind of romantic because he's like thinking the same thing, like he's restless and he wants to get a drink, and he orders like some kind of like tonic, like a gin and maybe it was a gin and tonic of his planet. Maybe he wanted to get a little hammered, like I am right now. And he couldn't do it because the computer couldn't recognize the drink he was asking for. It actually even like asked for the molecular structure of the drink because it's totally alien to the computer. So it's interesting.
So I have a question. So how about if he knew the molecular
The molecular structure.
Yeah, structure.
I think
What
he
would
did.
happen?
I think he did. He
said he wasn't going to do it because it
Right,
was too much work.
Right, but I think he did. He just didn't feel like it going through the
So
process.
this is like probably where a human operator needs to take place. So like, for example,
So you would type it in?
Actually, this is a great thing. Everything that just happened right now, where I was asking Siri to play songs and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Siri has so many commands that it understands right now, programmed into its database. And unfortunately, the way machines like this work today is that you need to have a huge file with possibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no real AI. Like our minds just kind of are able to like be creative and create new solutions from like, data that we just have at random stored in our brains.
Mm-hmm.
But computers don't work that way yet. So this was the situation where the computer didn't know what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all Nadan would have to do is go to the desktop computer in his room and find the molecular structure of
the tonic water, whatever he was doing,
and send it to the thing. Actually, he could have even said, "Computer, interface with the Trill, his people, the Trill computer, and download the recipe for this." And within like probably what would have been like 20 seconds, the computer would have retrieved this information and made the drink from. But he was just not thinking about it at the time.
But if they're so advanced, why didn't they have that recipe? And if they knew that that man was on board, why weren't they more sensitive to his, his desire? Like, I find that to be like he's being hosted by this ship. I think that they should be able to provide some of his like comforts.
No, that shows you that the snowflakes didn't win.
No, they weren't very accommodating to it. They weren't very good hosts.
What are you talking? Are you trying to get all political on my show here?
He's dying to get me political.
I'm
not going there.
Are you trying to
and they would have had everything for all the different kinds of people from all the different parts of the world.
It's like if you are hosting somebody from another country and you know that they can't, Or like if you have all these friends that are vegans and you don't have vegan
dishes.
So
dishes for
so that
preparing.
means on the ship, what position is lacking on the ship since they weren't prepared for the
I
exploration?
haven't seen any event coordinator on the ship.
I think that's something.
Is
No, there is no event.
There's no
coordinator.
diversity
Right, someone
director.
to handle, right.
A diversity director or
There's
an event
no-
coordinator.
yeah.
handle
Yes.
this, right, to help
They're all
the
science
transition,
people.
because there's a lot of people from different.
Okay,
And
so
different backgrounds and
person.
countries.
Let's
There's only
like
one blue person there.
let's
That
put a
isn't that blue
pause.
person.
Let's put a pause on this because this is very interesting, and I think we can talk about this. But just to explain the format of the show, because both of you, this is the first time you're on the show, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We do have to give
The synopsis
for posterity, a small, just a very brief episode summary, because I see we've already jumped into the conversation, which is
Right,
awesome.
right,
I'm very happy about that. But we're obligé. It's a casual and informal show, but we are obligé to give a summary. Would one of you like to give the episode summary? Very simple. Don't think too much
Do you
about
want
it.
me to do it?
Yeah, would you do it? All right.
Yeah.
Get closer to the mic
Okay.
though when you do it.
All right.
Okay.
So this show.
Use your best. You're on the radio.
Okay.
Use your best, like.
Oh, my
yeah.
best
Use your
radio
NPR
voice.
Use your NPR voice.
My
Yeah,
best
you can
radio
see,
voice.
and you can see it there. It's pretty awesome.
Use your NPR voice.
Oh, okay. Welcome, everybody.
That's not your best. Just
Welcome, everybody.
No, just use your normal voice.
Okay.
It's way sexier.
All right. So this episode is called The Host,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, it's true.
And is it what, early 90s?
Early night.
But the hair.
Yeah.
90s
You can tell.
episode.
I can
And the
tell.
title is
Yeah.
called The Host. I'm just looking at making sure that I don't scream on here.
I love that you're checking your levels.
Okay, good.
You're already a pro.
Ah, yes, I love it.
Hashtag so pro. Go on.
Okay, so what happens is at the beginning of the episode, you see Miss Dr. Beverly. Is that her name, Dr. Beverly?
It's Beverly Crusher, but his nickname for her
Is
was
Dr.
Dr. Beverly.
Okay, so-
Nadon's
All right.
nickname.
So they are, I guess they're engaged, and they've just started.
engaged?
They've just no, they're not engaged. They just fell in love. Like they're just
They're having a tryst,
right.
right? Is that what it would be called? A tryst?
Well,
I don't know. It's the beginning. It's
I
the
have a
beginning of
question.
everything. You don't know where it's going. You just know that it feels right.
Oh, no,
Was the
no.
ambassador in any other episodes?
No, it's for
New character.
brand new character.
Okay, so this is a very interesting show because there's a new character, and his name is
Nadon.
Nadon, the ambassador.
right?
Nadon from
And
so-
a trill. He's a trill.
Thrill.
A trill.
A trill from what country? From what
this-
world?
the planet is called Trill as well. I think.
Oh, the
or
planet.
Trilia. We have to look it up now.
Okay,
I have to look
okay,
this
so-
up.
Okay, so I guess he has been sent to the spacecraft or whatever it's called, the
Right,
big
War-
Star
War.
Wars ship.
Wait, what? To stop
Oh
a
no,
war.
no, Star Trek, the Star Trek ship. I'm confusing Star Wars and Star Trek.
Lots of people do, I find, but you can. That's okay. It's casual and informal, so keep going.
Okay, well, yesterday was the day of the Star Wars Day.
Yes, yesterday was May the 4th. It's true. And wait, guys,
Does
I
Star Trek
think
have a day?
you guys.
It was
This is like kind of my birthday episode.
Yay!
I'm turning 40. But anyways, finish summary because you're
Is
doing
this-
a great
is
job.
this-
Okay,
Is this your last
so-
podcast of your 30s?
Of my 30s, yeah, I turned 40 in a week
Oh,
from
life.
today.
Filthy
No,
40s.
From yesterday. Oh, that's what they're called.
Yeah,
Oh,
Dirty
my.
30s, filthy 40s.
I like barely survived the dirt in my 30s. I can't do filthy. I need to figure out another Lordy 40. Is that a thing?
And 30. How about 50s? What would be?
Fun 40s.
Fun 40s?
Oh, that sounds.
Could it be like
Fabulous
lovely 40s? That's like no, it's not
No,
alliteration.
that's
Fabulous 40s?
Fabulous 40s.
Yeah, but filthy 40 sounds a lot more interesting.
That's true. It does.
Okay, so what happens is that so I guess he was sent to the ship, and the doctor and this guy just completely fell head over heels for each other.
They were working together on a project, as
They-
often happens.
They were
Yes.
working on, but I don't understand why an ambassador and a doctor would be working on a project together. You see what I mean? He should be with the First of all, the doctor should be with the medical group, and the ambassador should be with like
There
the
was
ambassador
some-
people.
I think
the doctor's always
She has-
involved in
but
everything.
and even from the
anyone
old-
that's coming into the ship, she has to
No,
deal with,
Oh,
with
no.
their,
He's-
with
no,
their
so-
maintenance.
His dad was a doctor. He kind of knows, and a
No,
military one.
no,
at that.
no,
no,
no.
he kind of like has a little bit of. insight
What do you
into
mean?
it.
She's in charge of everyone that's coming in and out of the ship to do
It's
anything because she's monitoring
100%
she
right.
I'm
monitors
sorry,
their
but
health.
Yeah,
that
he's
that
100%
She monitors
right.
their health.
There-
it doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, so anyways, they're making out in the elevator, and then Data walks in, and he's like, "Holy shit, guys! Do you need any help with anything?" And
He
they're
doesn't
like,
understand
Right, he has
anything.
no idea.
Pobrecito, he
Did I
has.
miss it?
I'm not
"Yeah,
gonna
you missed
say.
this. You were on the video
Oh,
thing."
okay.
Yeah.
He sort of acts like my dad, that is completely unaware of what's going
Clueless.
on. Clueless, completely clueless.
And then, anyways, the ambassador goes down to the planet in a shuttlecraft.
No, wait,
Oh,
stop.
yes.
So he refused to get beamed down
Right,
to the planet,
right. That's true.
which is interesting because I remember just watching ET with my son who loves ET. He's fascinated with ET.
Oh, that's. I was just talking about that
Fascinated.
movie today. That's funny.
And in the movie ET, one of the guys told Elliot, "But why is he waiting for his spaceship? Why can't he just get beamed up?" And Elliot
Oh,
responds,
That's a line in ET.
"Yeah." And then I've seen it like 17,000 times in the last 3 weeks.
Hmm.
So the guy Elliot goes, "Hello, this is the real life. It doesn't exist."
But it will one day. We have already transported an atom, if I'm not mistaken, from
One?
from a satellite to China.
Oh my gosh, how exciting. I
Right.
can't wait.
And there's this room in Willy Wonka's factory that it'll break you up into little pieces and put you into the TV.
This
Oh,
is
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
This is true.
But so then he requests a
is Willy
ship.
Wonka's factory in China now?
Is it? I don't know. It looks very.
It's
It
English.
looks very European in the film.
That's a disclose. That's listen.
In the
Willy
Gene
Wonka.
factory.
Willy Wonka. I've always thought, where has this been? I think it was filmed in Canada. No.
No, the buildings look very.
It's
Dutch.
English?
They're German. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
The original with Gene Wilder was definitely filmed
Right.
in
In
England,
England.
but the one with Johnny Depp was probably filmed in Canada. I would probably say that's fair.
Right, but you're referencing the Gene Wilder one.
Yes.
Our mutual friends Jamie and Simon live in Montreal,
Mhm.
and Montreal is like one of the filming capitals of Canada because it can
Mhm.
substitute for Paris very easily.
And Vancouver, they used to substitute for the West.
Yeah. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
Okay, so he refuses to get beamed up because he
Right.
wants to go on a spaceship down to the planet.
Right.
So everyone, we start wondering why he doesn't want to get beamed.
Yeah, it's very
because
suspicious.
I would want to get beamed. You would want to get beamed. And I'm sure
Would you wanna get the-
nobody wants it.
I've already been.
It's like going on the wrong you know.
Yes, we know it's true.
No way.
He's been he's been to another planet. Anyways, go on.
Okay, so then he gets on the ship and then something happened. Who are these invaders?
So the situation on the planet was that for years these two factions and they just very simple in the episode they're called Alpha and Beta.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. But anyways, Alpha and Beta have been fighting for
Mhm,
years,
mhm,
and apparently Nadan has been kind of intertwined in the struggle for like hundreds of years because the symbiote Nadan, which audience, if you've already seen the episode, you know this, but if you haven't, oops, sorry, spoilers.
Mhm.
The symbiote Nadan, through different hosts, has been negotiating over the years to get these people to a point where they can realize that they can work together. They're almost there. It seems like it's the last stretch, but there's just a little bit more to be done. So apparently there's this like rogue group that doesn't identify with Alpha or Beta, but that just wants to make trouble, and they attack the shuttlecraft because none of the sides took credit for it. It's not like in our current times where like ISIS takes credit for something
Mhm.
or Hezbollah or whatever
Mhm.
else. This was like a random act of terrorism that no one took credit for.
But it's very strange because he gets hit inside the shuttle,
Right.
but the other man doesn't get hit.
Well, I mean, these blasts are localized, so it's the same as like a bullet. If you imagine like you're driving down like, you know, you're driving to a negotiation and someone streams your vehicle with, like, you know, heavy bullet fire, there's a good chance that you will survive, but there's also a very good chance that you'll get hit in your shoulder or worse in a fatal place.
Okay, so then he dies.
Well, he gets fatally injured.
He gets right, but then
the host
cannot survive.
Right.
So they take out
First they tell him that they got to take the host off of him, and then he explains to the woman, to Beverly,
right, that he has something inside,
that he doesn't have a host, that the host is him.
Right.
Like the dominant personality is the symbiote. The host relinquishes their personality for this symbiote.
Okay. So then they
it would be like
pull
right
it out.
now if I told you that
you have a little,
I have a little person inside me that's a slug, and that I am that, not the body that you see here.
Right.
So and your friend for all these years that you've been, like, you know,
it's like a little lobster.
There is a little bit of truth in that. Is that? Do you think the slug is the
like
soul?
Like the cult of the people with the white Reeboks. That these were their human bodies were just their temporary hosts.
Oh, isn't that what
the ones with the white Reeboks?
This Hale-Bopp, Comet Hale-Bopp. They left with the Hale-Bopp comet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't know anything about that.
They
remember them, and they all killed themselves, and they were all wearing white Reeboks and the same uniforms, and they were all just asleep in bunk beds.
They committed suicide, except they left one guy, and he runs their website, and that's the only guy that's survived from that.
Can you get white Reeboks?
I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Because I've been dying for a pair of white Reeboks.
Well,
all right, wait, but we didn't even finish our summary.
The white Reeboks would have fit very well into this episode.
Yes, that's why.
It's between the
hair and the color,
wavy mullet,
yeah,
and Dr. Beverly's shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys were noticing the fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. That's why I'm like, this is 1990.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely like.
I have a very important question.
All right, but we haven't even finished the summary. What happens at the end of the? Okay,
right.
But
before, why, if the ambassador is from another planet, why would he be wearing the Star Trek symbol on his uniform?
That's a really great question. And by the way, that reminds me that I have to get my. I always wear this, and I almost didn't wear it on this episode.
Oh.
So thank you for reminding me. We're gonna put my.
That would be like a politician not wearing the flag.
It would be exactly like that if, like, I went into politics and did not wear the flag.
So why was he wearing that?
So
everybody was.
Everyone wears this. Do you want to wear this one?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Try it out. It means it allows you on the ship.
It is, and they have these in hospitals now, by the way. It's a communications device as well as an insignia. So when you tap it, like this, I can just say, hey Siri, call Roxanne. Oh shit.
Sorry, I can't help you with calls on HomePod.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That's a good thing. But anyways, I can do that from my badge. And this is actually, you're gonna love this. They made a Bluetooth version of this, so I haven't gotten it yet, but I can actually have a Bluetooth enabled version that links to my phone, and I can just do this and talk to you on my phone.
So you can completely pretend that you're.
I can 100% pretend as if this is not enough. You're in my quarters. The fantasy here is that we're on the Enterprise, and you're in my quarters on the Enterprise. We're in my off time right now.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I'm like, that's why I'm wearing a tracksuit, because I'm not working. And we're hanging out in my Starship quarters. And I'm like, on the ship, I'm like the ship's historian / photographer. That's what I do. So
and what do I do?
Whatever you want. What's your job on the Enterprise?
I don't know.
Pick a job.
Well, I don't know. What do you think I should be? What do you think I should do?
Oh, I'm not sure.
How about Eddie? What are you?
We can't hear Eddie. He's saying I'm not sure. There's no.
I don't do anything. I just order tea.
Should I go? You would. What would you guys order from the machine? It's called the replicator, by the way. What would you order? What would be the first thing if a replicator were real? It's like 2 a.m, like it is almost right now. It's like 1 a.m.
Oh my gosh, and I still have to work on something.
A cold. I would order Coca-Cola Slurpee. with like a dash of wild cherry Slurpee mix.
We'll keep this episode quick. Coca-Cola Slurpee. That's a good one.
That's
What
a
would
good
you-
one. I don't know. Maybe a café con leche.
Oh, it's a really good one too.
Yeah.
I can make you one, by the way.
Oh, really?
Or I can make a regular coffee.
Everyone knew.
Oh wow! I didn't even think about that angle.
He jumped on that, yeah, for sure.
Do you think
That's terrible.
Do you think that's real? Is that happening?
Well,
I mean,
but he's
come
not
on,
going to
he
remember anything because he's been suppressed.
I
like you
think he'll
said.
have a memory of the whole
Right.
experience.
And that's all being. That's the future. There's cameras in all of those corners at all times.
No, actually, the privacy laws are pretty good in the future, I think. But no, you're actually right, though. There's probably surveillance all over the ship. The computer, at least, is monitoring your life signs. It's checking to see if you're... It probably knows when you're having sex or doing anything that like... It
Plus,
knows
there's
everything.
a chance that if it's good, when he goes back to it being himself, she'll want to come back to him.
It wasn't good because she never gets with him
Right.
in the whole episode. I mean, in the whole show.
I didn't
Well, it
like how
wasn't good
the
enough
whole
for him.
surgery thing was very
For her to-
interesting too.
for her
Can we
to
talk
go-
about the way that they conducted the
switch teams.
surgery?
Yes, we can talk about that. But let me just really quickly finish because I feel like OCD now. I have to get through the summary.
Yeah, get the summary.
Like I get
Let's
the
get
summary
that.
done. Just get it done. Whoa. Remember, we're a little... I am. You're not. She's on Café con Leche.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what were we talking about? So anyways, she puts the Trill symbiote in Riker. They are totally 100%. Well, no, they're joined, but they're not compatible. So you could see that right off the bat. There's like some incompatibility issues. But also Beverly rejects him at first. She's like totally not into it. Then it takes Troy, the counselor, which by the way is a position on the ship. You can be the ship's counselor if you want to be. Actually, it's a good position. So Deanna Troy, the lady in that scene in the lounge where she's like talking to her, advisor, she's like, accept the love. What do you guys think about that? Accept the love, right? Like it's the thing you should do. So she accepts the love and she's restless and she runs in and she makes out with Riker and then they do it, which we don't see because it's the 90s and it's primetime television. And so it just cuts to commercial and you assume something happens. When I was a kid, I never assumed that happened. As an adult now, I'm assuming it happens. But anyways.
Well, maybe they just made out and they cuddled.
It's very unlikely.
I would love.
No, I can't. Now, having been an adult, like once I start making out, it's like something really dramatic has to happen to stop the whole process.
That's very true.
It's true, right? See, it's
Right.
like
You would never kiss someone that you.
yeah,
would have sex
kissing
with.
is like a
It's the
huge.
beginning.
Okay, I don't understand why is it that she seems to be a very professional person. I think that maybe she didn't want to get involved with the captain.
That's a thing that you picked up on?
Yes.
That's great because actually there's a whole subplot of like over the years the captain and her have a huge sexual tension like between them.
Well, maybe
It's
she
very
just
Mulder
wanted
and
to-
Scully.
Yeah, I thought the hug was kind of.
No, there's a lot going on there. And I think you guys noticed that I got teary-eyed during that scene because like it's a pretty poignant thing. Like later on,
So is it repressed because they're doing it for the good of the
it's
ship?
the professionalism. Yeah, it's 100% that. Like Captain Picard can't bring himself to get into his full feelings with her. Well, so it gets a little more complicated also. Her husband, Jack Crusher, was Captain Picard's best friend and died in the line of duty. And then Captain Picard had
She's a widow.
She's a widow, and Captain Picard brought her husband's body back and gave her the bad news because they've all been, the three of them were friends, so it was like a really horrible thing.
So how about the lady with the black hair?
Counselor Troy
Mhm.
was in a very serious relationship with Commander Riker, who was hosting the symbiote for a little while.
And what happened to their relationship?
And then
Commander Riker,
and she's the one that's telling the girl to get with him.
Yeah, it's really sordid, isn't it?
Weird
It's kind of a weird situation.
They're all swingers.
They are swingers. I think there's
Well, it's like any micro, like a high school. Every microcosm, everyone
kind of. Is that right? Is that a
makes
thing?
Sense.
I didn't do it in high school, so I don't know.
I mean, I didn't either, but all my old high school friends ended up marrying someone that was going out with another. You know, it's all like it's the same 30 people. They may not be married to their one that they were going out with 20 years ago, but married to another one.
Such is life. I guess it is. It's true. Such is life.
The incestuous circles.
So these people get off the ship?
I don't
That's
think
what I'm saying. I mean,
they never get off the ship.
They're on a
once you-
5-year or more mission,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's kind of like
It
tough.
has to be incestuous.
But there
That's
are,
your whole pool.
but there's 1,000 people on the ship,
On the
so I
ship.
think it's a little more comfortable than it would be on the old Enterprise from the Star Trek that you knew and loved.
How many?
There's only like 300 people at max. I think it's even like 180 something.
Right.
Yeah. So
But it's like a high school. They're like in high school. They're like in a high school that is.
No wonder Captain Kirk was breaking boundaries there, going from from.
That's very interesting. I don't know. I didn't have very like, but you're right. Now that I think back on my high school, there's a lot of like sharing. Sharing is caring. I don't know if I would call it incestuous because like it's not, it's not like brothers and sisters.
It's not blood, but I'm saying
like, yeah.
incestuous within that it's within a.
It's
within a
nepotismal.
circle. Yeah,
It's a bit nepotismal.
Right.
I don't know. I can see what you're saying. But anyway, so yeah, that's definitely going on the ship. I would agree with that 100%. Because you're limited. You're limited by. So that's why she's probably so excited. Also,
well, I spent 3 months on a cruise ship, and yeah, that's pretty much what was going on.
Wow.
Everyone was just. And it's that whole world inside that.
Well, when we did a Camino, it was kind of like that too.
So socializing, we can like kind of broaden this to socializing. It just makes sense. I mean, we are ultimately like we can only socialize within what we have available to us. So.
Right.
Very cool.
So
All
that
right.
makes sense.
So yeah, it makes 100% sense. But anyways, it's very sordid because you have Counselor Troy who used to be with Commander Riker. It's like
Advising.
by the time you get to this episode, if you've been invested in the series, like it's emotionally very taxing. It's already a weird situation as you witnessed because you guys have never seen Star Trek before.
Right.
But for audiences that like have been watching all along, they're like, this episode's like really revealing of people's true feelings.
Wow, that's revealing of feelings.
It is. There's a lot of moments that set up.
Even the captain, when he's like, listen, I'm your friend,
Right.
Beverly.
Right.
And he gives her a hug. Is he secretly in love with Beverly?
100% secretly in love with Beverly. 100%. It's
So
like,
everyone is in love with Beverly.
or Riker.
Or
Which one's Riker?
But Beverly's
the man, yeah.
With the beard. Yeah.
With the beard, yeah.
I'm sure that there's hotter girls than Beverly on the ship.
Wow. I don't know.
I think that the girl with the black hair is prettier.
Yeah,
I would
she's
say,
not,
yeah.
but she's full human.
Huh?
Beverly's a full
Beverly's
human. Well, let's talk about that. So anyways, so Riker as Nadan as Riker successfully negotiates peace, but he's like on death's door. Like the guy is just like the incompatibility is just too much to bear. So he collapses, and now since he's solved the problem on the planet, they're racing towards this other symbiote, which is going to be other host, which is going to be 100% more compatible. And both of you called it. It's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's too much. Like Beverly already was able to accept Riker as Nadan, and now Nadan transfers once more into another host, his next hopefully, you know, long-term host. And it's too much for her to handle. She's just like, this is
see, that's too, I think that they got that wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there it shows that it was made in the 1990s. If that was made today, I don't think.
You think Beverly would have gone forward with it?
And if you're doing this in the 2300s, I mean, if kids already have, like, the whole line of sexuality is kind of
already blurred,
where a lot of kids are just bisexual and stuff like that. I don't think.
But I don't think that had anything to do with sexuality. I think that what she was referring to, because she said it, she just doesn't want to be with a different exterior of that person. Like, she's in love with that person inside.
Right.
That she can say, yes, I love that.
She did say that, actually.
She loves the little squirmy little thing. Right, Nadon,
right.
The
squid.
But the squid. She loves
the slug, really.
The slug.
Yeah.
She loves the slug. She just doesn't like that every 5 minutes,
right.
you know, every 5 minutes, it's like a different cocoon, like a different.
But that's wrong.
Vessel.
That's the dream, no?
No, she's not.
But you have the variety.
Like
but that's assuming that humans are monogamous creatures.
But no, it has nothing to do with that. It doesn't have. It has nothing to do with that.
That's an old Judeo-Christian way of thinking.
At all, nothing. Stop. That has nothing to do with that. She just doesn't
She's saying she doesn't want it.
She wants it to be a stable. Exactly. Yeah.
But okay, so here's an interesting thing. You know, Kinsey, right? All of his research kind of suggests the bell curve kind of applies to human sexuality as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Kinsey scale is 1 through 6. If you're a Kinsey 1, you favor the opposite sex 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, let's just say, to be fair, 99.9% of the time. Let's say there is always that one siren individual that can convert anyone, right? So 99.9% of the time, consistently, a Kinsey 1 would be heterosexual, whereas a Kinsey 6 would be a homosexual, right? Well, it just so happens, a well-known kind of number that's thrown out is that it's estimated that 10% of the human population is homosexual. Well, if you look at Kinsey's data, some people can say that also only 10% of humans are heterosexual. So heterosexuality and homosexuality are actually extremely rare, but bisexuality is the most ubiquitous factor of humanity, right? So it's possible that Dr. Crusher is actually a Kinsey 1. And so maybe it's just too much. That's her line. Like,
right.
She can't cross the line from male. It's not about being enlightened or anything like that. It's just she's hardwired to be attracted physically to a man. And even though she can love, just like I love you guys, right? She can love Nadon, but she cannot transcend the physical transformation from male to female.
I agree with you. And that's what I was thinking.
But you were saying it wasn't male to female. You were saying that it was stability. That it wasn't that it was a woman.
She wants a man, and that's it. That's her stability.
But you think if it would have been another man, that she would have been okay with it?
I think that the third man would have been. I think she would have been okay with, like, the first guy.
The second, but then when the third
second
guy
one was like, whatever, it happened, and then she was waiting for the host to be a man because she wanted to continue her relationship with the ambassador. And when it was a woman, she is hardwired. She does not want that. And then she's like, well, if it's going to be a woman, then it's going to be a woman now, and then who knows what it's going to be next.
Right.
But what it's going to be next, because we don't know what these people are
writing.
Okay, but what if it would have been a man that she wasn't necessarily attracted to?
Right.
It would have been the same thing. She would have thought, I'm going to have to go through this all the time. I don't think that she would have cared
what he... Listen, if she liked the first guy, she's going to like any guy after that.
No, but it's love.
I think
Roxanne, love is love.
Love is love. It's true. Love is love is love is love.
Exactly.
But I think that there is something telling in the writing, because obviously, as Star Trek is kind of beholden to, you know, the minds of the producers and the people who make the show, right? And you have to admit that when we were growing up, those of us who are now adults, when we were children in the 90s, or teenagers, we had ideas that were progressive, and we had to face this opposition from like the majority of adults at the time. Like, and it was pretty, like, if you go back to like just 20, 30 years ago, the opposition on things that we think are just casual and like very accepting of, that we are accepting of, people were like extreme. It was like a make or break proposition. It was like a very like hard line. And it's evident in the writing, because in that scene, Dr. Crusher doesn't just say, I can't do this. She says, maybe it's a flaw of humanity. She like actually like transposes this as a, she judges all of humanity and
based on herself.
based on herself, and says, no, actually, we humans, you'll find this common among humans, is basically what she's telling Nadan. And Nadan's just like, all right, deuces. Like, she's just like, all right, I get it, you know, whatever. Now, fast forward 30 years, I agree with Eddie. The show got it wrong, because even today, I think we would be like, well, if she wants to, she can be with Nadan, but it's not a human characteristic.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and imagine 300 years from now.
Yeah.
But you don't know that.
Well, we could go into a horrible spiral downwards if the trend in the world leadership continues as it is right now. And you're right; it could be a dark
right.
place, not like Star Trek, all bright and cheery, where people have choices.
I told you the snowflakes didn't win. It shows.
What? I don't understand what.
Oh my gosh! Is that ET?
What's that?
You have ET.
I have ET. ET is one of my favorite movies. We were just talking about this. So, anyways, that was a great summary.
Okay.
And we kind of just talked about.
I think she didn't want to do it because she was starting to feel slutty.
Wow, you think so?
I think she looked very, very like when she was talking to the last
uppity.
The last one. She okay. So I have a question.
Okay.
Dr. Beverly, what is her degree in?
I would say that she's. This information is probably available online, but just based on what I can recall from my personal memory, she's like a general practitioner, and she has like a lot of like surgical, like she can do surgery. So she's probably a surgeon, is what I would say.
Okay, so why doesn't she wear gloves during her operation?
That's a really great question also. So on in the sick bay, in the medical bay, when you're doing incisions like this, like in current times, you have to put on a local anesthetic. You have to also anesthetize the patient depending on the severity of the surgery you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And there's like antibiotic gels and things like that you can use, plus we wear gloves, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the ship itself, especially in the sick bay, has technology which sterilizes the air, so it can actually on the nano level hone into, you know, problem bacteria, things like that, and completely eliminate it. So you can work hands-free without worrying about contaminating wounds and things like that. So it's a whole new way of doing surgery. It's very intimate because technology has allowed us to not have to worry about things like wearing gloves and things like that.
That's awesome, because if you go to a hospital, man, there's so many the gloves. It's like, here, but get a glove. I touch you, get a glove, throw it away. Do you imagine all that waste? It's crazy.
Right. So this is something that the technology of the future kind of helps you to not worry about.
Okay, and so which I think we talked about this, because how did Beverly and this guy, the ambassador, meet?
But we never see. Is the first time we ever see that ambassador on any show? That scene where you see that they're completely in love. So
the show kind of starts in the middle of their the beginning of their relationship is the impression. The episode starts in the middle of the beginning of their relationship. Apparently, he's been on the ship. They must have picked it because he can't transport necessarily or whatever. They picked him up from wherever he was, and they're now taking him to this troubled planet, right? Okay. So during that time, he and Beverly somehow were working together, and a relationship sprouted. So the show just kind of like lets you assume whatever that is. So you can just kind of like guess at whatever it was. Make up something romantic. That's probably what happened.
They're playing doctor.
Okay, so what is so he's from this planet called
Trill. The Trill Syndicate.
And why is that planet? Why does that?
There's a kind of music called Trill, isn't there? Like Trap. Okay.
Why is the planet concerned with what's going on with planet Beta and Alpha?
Oh, that's a great question. So everyone, including Trill, if I'm not mistaken, belongs to the United Federation of Planets, which is kind of like, it's not really like this, but it helps to think of it this way. Imagine the United States. So there's instead of states, it's planets that are united. So it's very similar. There's like very different cultures, and just like how if I go to South Carolina, there's a unique kind of culture to that region of America, right? Well, you can imagine Trill as being like the Seattle of the Federation, let's just say, or the Washington State of the Federation. I don't really think it's like that, but it helps to kind of think of it like that, right? So of course they all represent the Federation. So an ambassador who's going to, let's say, they're going to Israel on assignment, to handle a dispute. This is like the Israel of Star Trek that they're going to, and the ambassador just happens to be from Washington State or Trill.
You should have like a podcast that is for Star Trek virgins.
This is what it is. This is the podcast.
This is for Star Trek virgins.
It's for anyone who just has like an interest in Star Trek, and there's two components of it. One is like I have the joy of having you on my podcast, which it's your first time, so it's kind of cool. I get to do a lot of explaining, which is always fun for a Star Trek fan, because we're always trying to like know as much about Star Trek as we possibly can.
Okay.
But then the other component is that like sometime in the distant future, near future, tomorrow, tonight, today, like 100 years from now, as long as YouTube exists, someone might stumble upon this and like find value in our conversation, and I think that's pretty rewarding.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So as it was, for that having my Star Trek cherry, was that a good episode?
I really think so, because the conversation that sprouted from it is very interesting. Like,
what was that? Is that Next Generation?
That was Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yeah.
That's the one my sister watched.
So, do you guys have any more questions or anything like observations to make about the episode?
So I have a question. I was a big fan when I was in high school of Star Trek reruns.
The original series. With Captain Kirk.
Yes,
and Spock,
I saw all of them.
Great.
How is this related to that one?
Yes. How is this generation related?
That's fantastic. So I love these questions because I take it for granted, and it's like so much fun to like actually think about it. So Star Trek, the original series, takes place 80 years before these guys.
Oh my goodness.
And so Star Trek had been kind of like, at this time, like my generation, I was 11 when this show first came on.
Yeah.
And so for my generation, even though I grew up watching the original series, it was exciting to have a new show. And it was so well acted. And of course, we all know Patrick Stewart today. He's like very, well regarded, and he's played Professor X in, among other roles. Pretty much his biggest roles are Captain Picard and Professor X. So it's like wonderful to see, what these people have become. But like the show itself had a high production value. And not only that, it tried, even though it's science fiction and a lot of things they got wrong, they got a lot of things right. And so now watching the show like as a retrospective tool, it's really fascinating because it shows that like how the influence of science fiction, of fiction in general, but like in technology, which is something I'm passionate about, Star Trek is immensely influential. And even astronauts will often claim they went into the space programs that they're affiliated with because of Star Trek. And even though there's some awful news right now about Amazon, but Jeff Bezos is like a huge Star Trek fan. So there's a lot of like very influential people today in society that credit Star Trek as like their driving force to be successful.
Even Zuckerberg?
I don't know, but they make a lot of, if you've seen the memes of Zuckerberg as Data, did you guys remember Data?
They look the same.
They look exactly the same. It's kind of weird. Yeah, it's true.
They have the same personality.
Yeah, they have the same personality. They don't blink.
Oh my gosh, I hope Mark Zuckerberg.
Do you think he watches this show?
I have no idea. I don't actually know.
I'm sure that somebody at FB,
Facebook.
Yes.
If there's anyone at Facebook watching this episode, please let us know so I can let Roxanne know. Is there any other question? Or
that we're all six people separated.
From who?
From everybody.
From Kevin Bacon?
From everybody.
Oh, isn't that movie with Will Smith, 6 Degrees of Separation?
Yes, we're all 6 degrees separation, everybody.
does that number decrease as the world population grows? Because like, aren't there is at that time, guys? Can you believe that when we were young, wasn't the world population like at 4 billion? Do you remember that? Like,
And now it's more.
7. We're at 7 billion.
Right, but now we have more ways of connecting.
That's true. It's crazy, but there's 7 billion people on the planet.
But this world is so small.
And it's so big at the same time, because if you look at where the population centers are on the planet, it's all along the coasts. So like there's a whole bunch of middle places that aren't even inhabited.
I would love to live in the middle.
I have one question. How come with all the different species, or I guess are they species?
Yeah,
Diverse groups.
Species.
How come they all pretty much retain the same human form and they just have different heads?
That's a really great question. So the honest answer is because they didn't have the budget to like create like really interesting creatures.
Okay.
It's just like a lot of work in terms of like puppeteering or whatever, and computer generated effects weren't that great in the 90s, as we know, on TV. Jurassic Park was like, one of the most expensive films to make, and like that CG today, if you watch it, it's like, it's like a little hurt. But
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but they had to spend the money to make sure
with any special effects.
That wasn't 92.
93. Jurassic Park was 93.
Jurassic Park? Okay.
Yeah, but that's what, 9? It's like 8 years removed from Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, it's not that.
Clash of the Titans is great.
Anyway, so that's the really honest reason. But the the within the universe explanation that the writers have suggested is that there was a species that came into prominence like probably like a billion, maybe 5 billion years ago, and they seeded the galaxy with their genetic kind of code, and then based on the environmental conditions, those life forms evolved in different ways. So for example, Worf, who's a Klingon, he has like the ridges, right?
Mm-hmm.
He evolved with whatever the environmental conditions were on his planet, but his template was basically the same as these like founding civilization, and that civilization dies out. It's gone.
Right, he's the last one, right?
No, that initial civilization that seeded the galaxy, it's gone. So all that's left is the children of this, and that's where we get a lot of our mythology from. So this is the concept of like, like all of our mythology is kind of like that. It's like, Adam and Eve, right? It's just like,
I was thinking of that. It seems to be very creation-like.
Exactly. So anyways,
One image.
that's the in-universe explanation for why there's so many bipedal sentient civilizations.
Bipedal? What?
Sentient, bipedal, two standing on two, yeah. And sentient, having like some kind of intelligence and like form of expression. So yeah, that's the in-universe explanation for it. Good question.
What was I going to tell you? You know that I like to watch, I don't know, can I say the name of another radio broadcast?
Yeah, anything. That's fine.
Okay, Coast to Coast Radio?
Oh, I used to, George Norrie, yeah.
Yes, I love
and
him.
Art Bell before him. Yeah, I used to listen to that as a kid.
So I listen to that every once in a while. I love to listen to that really late at night.
A lot of garbage, but also a lot of great science concepts come out of that. Because like sometimes he interviews people who are like, you could tell they're off the deep end.
I love them.
I know, I still love them too. They're very entertaining, but they're very far out, right? But at the same time, I felt like George Norrie always brought it back home, which was pretty cool.
You know what? Late at night when you listen to that show, if you're driving down a dark road and you're listening to that, doesn't it?
It is actually
a sense of like comfort, like
I
know.
Like,
oh, it's nice.
I can remember a few trips to Disney World. You're right.
Yeah.
Like at night, coming back and being comforted by that show. It's true.
Oh, okay. So he was talking. They were talking about. Listen to this. They were talking about that there are all these Air Force like pilots that report all these spaceships and things that they can't. They're like, we don't know what this is. And no one listens to them and no one pays attention to them. But it's actually recorded. Like they record it, but they're like, okay, we're just going to record and document it. but they don't disclose the information.
What do you think is happening?
I think it's like space. I think it's space people.
I hope it's that, but there's also so many variables. For example, flying around at night, you know, I've just being in an airplane flying on red eyes a lot, you know, you're tired.
No. These guys, it's one after the other. You have to look it up.
Okay, I'll look it up.
I was like, oh my goodness, this is like real.
But what do you think the implications would be? Like, if these aliens are out there, why aren't they introducing themselves to us? Like, why aren't they just like landing a spaceship on the White House lawn, just like in the movies?
Because they're not ready yet.
Who's not ready? We're not ready.
We're not ready. They're not ready.
Because we're the aliens.
Or maybe they can't
they're
because
just transferring going from different astral planes from one to the other.
Maybe there's some medical reason that they can't.
If you see the new season of Twin Peaks, you understand how they just come in and out, and they make flash, and that's what they see, just that quick flash.
So my son is really interested in ET. So the next film I want him to watch is Space Invader. No, the one with the mashed potatoes.
Oh, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
You know what's a great movie for kids though that I think
that one hasn't held up too well. I've been reading.
No, it's really good. I have the 20th or 30th anniversary edition. It's really good. I saw it at the Cinerama.
I was reading an article where it said how out of his movies that one hasn't.
I don't think that article. I don't think I agree with that article. Anyways, just to say something though, the film, I think if it's available, you should introduce your son to, because how old is he?
3.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I think it's a little too soon for. Flight of the Navigator is a great, and it takes place here in Florida, so it's exciting.
He loves those. He loves like ET. He loves all those.
Tron's another great.
Just let's show him 80s children's sci-fi films.
And Star Trek the original series.
Like the Dark Crystal.
Oh, the Dark Crystal's a great film. Yeah.
You can watch
Daryl.
I don't think any
Mannequin?
And how about the secret of Nim? The Secret of Nim.
What about Mannequin and Cocoon? Do you think those are children?
Secret of Nim is great.
Yeah,
like when he's 5.
And the Secret of Nim.
When he's 5 or 6.
The rats.
All right.
Yeah, because the rats are pretty. It's pretty minor.
All right, I think we're coming up to close to about an hour. So this is the portion of the show where we can keep talking if you guys have more things Star Trek related stuff. Or we can give it our rating, and it's a rating from 1 to 10. So
that's a big rating.
I know. So you're rating your impressions of this episode 1 to 10, and it's a very loose criteria. So there's like just kind of your gut vibe about it, like how you felt after you watched it. I'll go first if you like.
You know what? We should rate this with that weird drink that man requested. How many of those would you like? What was it called? The gin and tonic?
So from 1 to 10, a gin and tonic. So how many gin and tonics is this on a scale from 1 to 10?
No, that spacey one.
Space tonic. How many space tonics is it on a scale of 1 to 10?
The host, the actual episode, the
whole episode, yeah.
I'd give it an 8.
An 8.
Boy, wow. You're really nice.
I'm nice. It's my first Trek episode,
but
so I figured I have to be good with it.
It was really good. It was a good episode. I have to agree. I would say
I took a point off because it's not the original.
I was gonna give it a 7.5, but I'm gonna actually raise my rating to an 8 because I can't be below you. You're like
I was gonna give it a 6.
A 6?
A 6 because it was very slow. And I did not.
I liked the pacing. It reminded me of 90s television,
which was good. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that.
You like what the quick ADD?
Yeah, I needed that.
So
and some of the camera angles were a little bit off. Like
talk this way.
Some of the camera angles weren't that interesting. I didn't really like her hair.
Really?
No.
I could have had more LeVar Burton.
There's like one brief scene with LeVar Burton.
Oh, another thing I don't like is that a lot of the characters, like for example, the ambassador is from the island, the planet of
Trill,
right? And then the other people were from planet Alpha and Beta.
Well, there were Alpha and Beta factions from a planet which I can not pronounce at the moment, but it was something like Seti Farkagar Stick.
Well, I think that the costumes were very similar. It's just that one had more of a human form with that the ridges here, and that the other guy, the one that works on the what do you call it? The ship part, the ship. When they're in the ship, the guy that with the long hair, and he also has the ridges, and he's like the one that announced, "Hey, the host is here."
Oh, Worf.
Yes, they all kind of look the same. I wish that there was a little bit more diversity in costume.
So I will say that, like, yeah, 100%, you're right.
They could have been more creative.
Yeah. So unfortunately, again, they were producing, as opposed to today where there's only like 15 episodes a season, they were producing like 24 episodes a season.
But I'm sorry,
with a much smaller budget.
Yeah.
But you know what? You don't need a huge budget to be creative. You could have put the ridges instead of here. You could have put the ridges here and made them look like bills.
But unfortunately, we were too young to be productive members of their production team at the time. But I have to say, you're right. Like, TV has gotten way more creative, but CG helps with that a lot. Like, if you watch the new Star Trek, there's crazy aliens that you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's like, how did they do that? Computer assistants.
But you could have painted blue people with, like, I don't know. You could have been you could have done something to make them look different. Not everyone, like, I was confused. I thought that everybody was from the same planet. So that's why they're getting a 6 for not pushing it to the costume.
That's fair. All right, so between the 2 8s and the 6,
I'm gonna take it. I'll take it to a 7.
Are you gonna come down to the 7?
Yeah, I didn't agree with her conclusion that the human race is incapable to see past the physical when they encounter love.
I'm gonna keep mine at an 8, but because of this like rating scale here, I think it's safe to say that the episode's a 5.5. If you like kind of average.
You mean 6, 7, and 8. It's a 7.
It's a 7. Fine. That's true.
That's that.
There's like a. I take it. All right. And that concludes another exciting guys, I'm so happy. This is like a dream come true.
Let's listen to the
we're gonna edit it.
We're not song.
Yeah, we're gonna what song? We're gonna sing a song?
No, Doctor Who.
Oh.
Take it out on Doctor Who.
What do we do? Okay. Why Doctor Who? It's a Star Trek show. We should take it out. Hey Siri, play Star Trek Disco.
Ooh, disco.
Let's see.
Disco Trek, theme from Star Trek by Universal Robot Band now playing.
Hey Siri, raise the volume to 45%. All right, so live long and prosper, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, guys. It was a real pleasure having you.